the importance of passing on what we know, what we've learned, or paying it forward is another way to look at it. What's been happening in public school systems for years and is getting progressively worse. I don't know if some of you have heard about some of the even more changes, even more dumbing down they're going to be doing in the public school system, where they're lowering the percentage a student needs to pass. And I don't remember what states, but I'm sure it's going to be something that's going to, like our state, I'm sure would be one of the first ones to jump on board with this, Washington State. But what I heard, I just heard that, so I don't know how, just understand, this is just word of mouth. I'm not sure how accurate it is, but I heard that they're going to lower the percentage to like, as long as you get 21%, you can pass. What? 20, what? So all the percentages are being lowered, like what the percentage is of any test or the overall score you get in a class in order to get an A, a B, and simply just to pass. And they're not even going to force the students or require, let me put it this way, require, I'm talking high school, require the students to make it to class. Yeah, 21% is an F. I think I remember anything below 50% was an F, but now they've lowered that even farther. It's really a shame. So you're going to see even more and more incompetent people. They might have the brains to do this stuff, but they're not going to know anything. And they're going to need to be taught. So, I've seen it happen over and over again, even just here. Just things getting, kids graduating with honors and then going off to just a basic community college just to get their AA credits out of the way at a cheaper college before you go on to a university. And I know this girl, she's a smart girl. She worked hard. She graduated with honors. And then when she went off to the community college, found she ended up having to take a class that, because she didn't score high enough. I can't remember what subject it was, but she had to go back to taking the before, what is it, like a 99, because she wasn't ready for the 101. So now she's got to pay the college fee for this class when it should have been covered in high school, and she graduated with honors. She was very, very mad about that. So what I've seen, just, as one who was teaching dance, one who was teaching martial arts, I taught dance here in this town for 28 years. Martial arts, I taught for like 10, I think. And what I saw through my whole entire career of teaching, the difference in the kids I had when I first started teaching, and then that same age group 20, 28 years later, massive difference. I had to keep dumbing things down just in order for these kids to be able to grasp stuff. I had to explain things in a way, and I know some of you have heard me share some of this before, that I never had to do. And I'm talking kids that were 3, 4, 5, 6 years old could pick up on stuff just like that when I first started teaching back in 1988. When I first started teaching here, or 89, excuse me. And I could not believe the difference. But it's not because kids are not getting dumber necessarily. It's because they're not being taught. They're not being taught just basic things, and they're not being taught how to think outside the box. And so this is why I think I have a lot of people that will come into my videos, and I'll be talking about making a half gallon of vinegar, and you use X amount of sugar to this much. And so they don't know the basics on, well, then how much sugar do I add if it's only a quart? How much sugar do I add if it's a gallon? And I was really kind of blown away, because I'm like, wait, so I'm realizing how many people, and it's not because they're stupid, it's because they haven't been taught. How many people did not even understand the basics that and I'm one that was terrible in math. I should have flunked Algebra 2. I did okay in Algebra 1, but I should have failed Algebra 2. My teacher gave me a D minus just so I wouldn't have to take it again. But he first asked me, are you going to continue on and taking any other math classes, any more advanced classes? I said, no. He goes, okay, in that case, I'm going to give you a D minus so you don't have to take this class again. I'm like, thank you so much. So that's me, right? But I still graduated high school understanding that there are 4 quarts in a gallon. I understood my basic fractions. I understood what I needed to understand to be able to create my own recipes in my kitchen, to be able to start crocheting and understanding the math that's involved in that. And then several years ago, when my son, was homeschooled, was able to tell the guy that worked in the hardware store how many centimeters were in an inch, and he was kind of blown away. Then he was asking me, how's your son know that? I said, because we homeschool? I don't know. And he's like, doesn't every kid know that? I don't know, because I didn't remember the metric system at all. So I had to rely on him too. Well, he was surprised at that because what really got him was how many adults did not know how many feet were in a yard, how many quarts were in a gallon. So when he made the application for his store, for working in the hardware store, he had basic math problems that people needed to know the answer to before he would hire them. And that would be the stuff that most of us would know, like how many quarts are in a gallon, how many quarters are in a dollar, things like that, especially when it came to measurements and weights because of the type of job that they worked. And so, except for metric, because you just don't really use the metric system much here. The point that I'm trying to make is that as we are learning from each other, okay, as I shared recently, that part of what I'm doing now when I share some of the stuff I've learned or the stuff that I've come up with on my own, this is all me learning from other people and me taking what I've learned or what I've created and then passing it on to others so that they can learn. And hopefully those people will take what they've learned from me and then the things that they've created or come up with on their own and pass it on to other people. But we especially need to be able to do this with the young people in our lives. So our children, our grandchildren. So even if you are going to be one of those that's going to take a chance and send your kids to public school, you're going to have to still homeschool them. And this is what a lot of people don't understand. They think, oh, I don't have time. I'm not smart enough to homeschool. I don't have time to homeschool. Well, let me tell you something. The kids coming home with hours, I'm talking grade school kids. I'm not even talking high schoolers. Coming home from school and still having several hours worth of homework to do, they're homeschooling. Right? They're already homeschooling. You could do homeschooling in that same amount of time and just cut out the middleman. I mean, we usually had most of our work done in 2 to 3 hours, sometimes 1, depending on the day, depending on the topics, or depending on the age. But it's sometimes longer, it just depended like some of the math stuff could be really frustrating. And my boys were like, okay, I didn't understand this. I'm going to go all the way back here and I'm going to start over because I got lost somewhere along the way. And so, yeah, that made some things take longer. But you know what? They came out in the end understanding what they were doing. And I didn't have to do that much work. Once a child can learn that they have the ability, first of all, they got to learn how to read and have reading comprehension. Once they have that, they can be self-taught. And there's very little that the parent has to do other than checking the work and making sure they're getting their work done. And so it's actually far easier than most people realize who've never homeschooled. So I kind of look at it at this point, if they're learning absolutely nothing in school except for whatever the latest political fad is that you may or may not agree with, which just shouldn't be up to the school to teach, a political opinion. If that's all they're coming out of school knowing, then there's no point in sending them because they're not getting the basic skills they need to survive. And I do honestly believe with my whole heart that a single parent that has to work outside the home can still homeschool their kids. Your biggest issue is finding someone to take care of them while you're at work. That's going to be the toughest part. The homeschooling part, you can do that when you get home from work. Because remember, if you send them to public school, you're still going to have to help them with their homework. When you're homeschooling, you know exactly what they're learning. So the trade school thing, thank you, Deb. That was going to be my next point. So we're talking about the importance of trade school, because college anymore, unless you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer, and even then I'm not sure, like there's got to be a way around just at least the basic college stuff. For the most part, I've seen college for some time now as a scam. For the most part, not in all cases. But trade schools, I think every kid that when they're done with their basic schooling, be it homeschool, public school, whatever, that trade school should be what they're going directly into. Because you can learn a trade, it's going to cost a lot less money, and you can actually have a skill that you can fall back on if you really want to go into gender studies. Because you can go and pay $200,000 for a college degree or university for gender studies to do what? To earn what kind of income? And then have, this debt hanging over you that you may never be able to pay off. Used to be that was just the way things were done, but you learned as an apprentice under another person. If you wanted to be a blacksmith, if you wanted to do this, if you wanted to do that, you learned by working under that person, working right alongside them and learning the job as you did the job. And this is what our country is sorely missing, because you got kids coming out of school that don't even graduated from high school that have no idea how to do their laundry. I know people like that. I've seen quite a number of people like that. Don't know how to do their laundry, have no idea how to even open some kind of packaged meal, be it top ramen, macaroni and cheese, or something like that. Something easy where you basically just add water and cook it. Don't even know how to do that. Don't even know how to do something from a box or a package, even with the directions right on there. Don't even know how to turn on an oven or a washing machine. Of course, today's washing machines, I can understand that. It's like, how many doggone buttons are on these things? And what does it mean? What does it all mean? I remember it used to just be a dial. That was it. It was easy. Some of that I think I could understand. But really, seriously, I know people like this. Graduate from high school and have absolutely no skills. They don't even know the basics enough to take care of themselves once they move out. Just to take care of their own doggone selves. How to clean their house, how to clean a toilet, how to make the bed. So obviously some of this is problems at home too, not being taught at home. And really what it boils down to, I think that's what mostly people are missing, is the parents are either too busy or too caught up in other things that they're not taking the time to teach the kids the important skills they need to know. They're expecting either somebody else to do it or that maybe they're going to pick it up by osmosis. I don't know. We need to be able to be generous enough to share what we've learned with others. That can be in the form of starting a YouTube channel or not. It doesn't have to. It can be the form of sharing the recipes you've created, writing them out and sharing them on Facebook. That's what I used to do, was share information on Facebook. But my problem was the recipe thing. What's your recipe, please? And I'm like, it's here. I don't know. It's here. I just put stuff in there and did this with it. That's why I started YouTube, so I could show people what I do. We need to try to make that effort as much as we can, even as we're learning. This is one of the reasons I don't want to write a book, because I'm always learning something new and changing the way I do things or finding better ways to do things. And sometimes it's either something I thought of new, or it's because of stuff you people out there have shared with me. And I'm like, I love that idea. Or, oh, I didn't know that. Now I learned something new. Like the lady that shared with me that calendula leaves were edible when I thought they were toxic, because I read that somewhere. And it's not even true. In fact, I just ate a calendula leaf the other day and I'm like, wow, this tastes better than I remember it. And, it's something you can add to a salad. So that's what I mean. I'm always learning. I don't want to write this stuff down thinking I'm right and then find out, oh, I'm wrong. Now I got to go edit my book and republish it again and make everybody buy it again. I mean, I don't want to put in the work in the first place into a book. My life is too full as it is. But I know I would have to edit it like 15,000 times. People would get tired of buying my books. Here's, edition number 52 with even more corrections. I mean, there's so much that we can teach each other, and we can teach our grandchildren, and we can teach our children just from home. And it's a lot of that really basic and just the common sense. When kids can learn just basic common sense, they're already going to be a step ahead of most kids their age in the way things are going, because those things are just not taught anymore either.